My name is Sebastian Meeks, and I'm looking for my cat. I found my cat in a homeless shelter. I used to go there a lot. I would wander around in the shelters looking for a dog or cat for companionship, but I never seemed to find one. Until one day, as I was about ready to leave, I heard this voice that said, "Oh, so you haven't found one yet?" And I looked behind me, and there was this cage with this big, fluffy black and white cat, and the label on the cage said Patches. So I walked over to the cage, and I said, "Excuse me?" And the cat said back to me, "Well, I've been watching you come in here and you never leave with anyone." And that was a little surprising to me because up until that point I didn't think anybody noticed me. So I said, "Well, yeah, I'm looking for some special connection." And she said, "Well, what would be a special connection?" And I said, "I don't know. I just thought I would know it when it happened." And she said, "How about a conversation with a cat?" And I thought about that, and I said, "Well, yeah, I think that's a connection." And she says, "Well, what else do you need? A bolt of lightning? How about getting me out of here and we can go?" So I said, okay, and we went home, and we spent the first week just getting familiar with each other, and I found out that her real name wasn't Patches. It was Jezebel. She said she had told the staff there that her name was Jezebel, but they didn't pay any attention to her. And we got more familiar, and I found out what her favorite foods were. She liked lightly poached salmon and sauteed chicken livers. I also found out she didn't like to chase yarn, and she preferred to stay inside as long as I took care of her litter box. The other thing that she liked was to watch television. We used to watch a lot of television. She liked Law and Order, Law and Order Special Victims Unit, Law and Order, I can't remember the other name, but the other one was the Blacklist. And we kept getting familiar with one another. It got to a point where she began to look at my financials. And she was a little concerned. And I happened to mention that since she's come into the house, I've had more expenses, particularly since her favorite type of litter was the non-clumping, special scented preferred brand. She was a little perturbed when I brought that up. She said that brand made the maintenance of the litter box much easier for me. And I agreed. Then she told me she had a plan. And her plan was that she would go out into the neighborhood, to some of the more expensive neighborhoods. And she would ingratiate herself with the families there. And once she had made that owner-cat connection, she would disappear. And then we would wait for the reward posters to go up. And I would take Jezebel back to the house, and I would say, "Hey, I saw your poster, and I'm bringing your cat." I would collect the reward, and then in a couple of days, Jezebel would just move on to the next family. It was a very simple plan, and my part of it was incredibly simple, and she would point that out to me when it came down to us dividing up the rewards. Well, eventually, she thought that we had used up most of the neighborhoods in our area and that we needed to expand our territory. So we invested in a cell phone, because she wanted to be able to tell me where to pick her up when she got finished. And I know some of you think, how could I communicate with a cat on a cell phone? It was pretty simple once she told me how to text her. This went on for a while. We did quite well. Eventually, in our joint bank account, we had $25,000. Until one day, she stopped answering the phone. And I couldn't find her. It was a catastrophe. So I went to one of the last houses that I thought she had gone to, and I said I was looking for this cat. And he said, oh yes, we saw that cat. She lived with us for a couple of weeks, but she's left and we haven't seen her since. I was so worried. I rushed over to the bank because I wanted to take out money so that I could print out some real reward posters for her. And I found out that the bank account had been cleaned out. So I asked the manager, I said, what happened? And he went back and looked at his report and he said, well, last 2 purchases was a catamaran and rental on a villa in Catalonia. It was cataclysmic. I was so upset. Then he said that all the money had been transferred to the Cayman Islands. Well, I went home and watched old reruns of Law and Order. But you know, even after all of this and taking the money and disappearing, if she was to return tomorrow, I would just welcome her back and have her sit next to me while we watched. It was Criminal Intent, Law and Order Criminal Intent. That was the other one, yes. And we would watch those shows. But I don't know if I ever find her. But I am offering a $200 reward for her safe return. So if you find her, please return her to me. Thank you. Oh, if you do find her, don't open a joint account.
Ladies and gentlemen, Stephen Olson.